This is Futbol.
Welcome to This is Futbol. Bienvenidos a This is Futbol, episode 2. We have a couple new faces with us today. Let's get right into it and let's meet them. Who do we have first? Let's talk to Rolfi.
No, let's go with Socio. Socio raised his hand. Go, Socio. Let's do it.
Go for it, Socio.
Oh, I was pointing at you. What up, my people? Everyone out there, shout out to you. Thanks for watching. Brian, mostly known as Socio, played ball with both of these guys and everybody else you see us here chatting with. I'm a habitual line stepper. So if you get offended easily, I'm going to have a great time here.
That's what we're here for.
Oh, by the way, if you can't see, top of the table.
What's your other
Ask
team?
me who I support.
Who's your what other team do you support? Which other team?
Oh, a la Madrid.
Muy bien, muy bien, muy bien. My name is Renier, Rolfi, Reni. Go by many names. Play with a lot of people too that have been in episode 1 and now episode 2. Played as a figure of speech, mostly in the bench, but been there for a couple of championships. Score a few goals. And le voy a Boca, Privatina, Boca, Barcelona. Those are my teams. Inter Miami. It has to win my heart a little bit, but we're getting there.
We are getting there. That is right. Well, welcome, guys. We will have our other host Nico join us a little bit later on in the show. He had some family stuff to tend to just right now as we start the show. But I really wasn't going to do this, guys. We talked about it. We've actually been talking about it since Sunday. Our initial broadcast on Sunday, we talked a lot of Inter Miami. I didn't want to get into this, but I mean, the biggest news of the day today was the biggest news of the day was Sergi. Who is this obscure Ukrainian 31-year-old who apparently is this great or good center back that Neville was talking about at his presser the other day.
Take from the front line, directico. They said, "Come here. You look like you can handle it." Vení para acá. 31. That's a surprise. Que este dijo, I'm excited.
No, and top defender, I don't know, man. to be honest, if you're a good defender in Mercado de Pases right now in Europa, his name would have popped out in any other league. And more being from Shakhtar, in Italia, Alemania, Bundesliga.
Danny sent out the little tweet about it. How many did he play in the league?
Yeah, so he played 12 years for Shakhtar Donetsk, and he had 145 appearances. So I mean, I didn't check the year to year on how much he played year to year, but on an average, that's 12 games a year. And in Europe,
those are like my numbers.
He played 90 minutes. He played 12 games a year.
Right.
Exactly.
Right. And then in 12 years with the national team, he had 30 caps. So he did score a few goals, with Shakhtar. He did score a few goals, with the national team. We have some of our buddies telling us, give the guy a chance.
Yeah, we'll give him the benefit of the doubt, but as a hype,
I feel you. I'm not that hype to say this guy. I'm excited for what we're bringing.
Absolutely, yeah.
31-year-old fantasma.
I felt the hype was like European Champions League team defender, and we got League defender.
Link me and say he's coming later. I'll take that, but for this guy,
right? Exactly, and that's exactly how I feel. I mean, I was hoping for at least somewhat of a big name, but we get
but that's the problem with Inter Miami, man. We're not a big name team.
No, we're not.
Our DP not big names. The only big name we have been is Messi, and es un link up de que un sueño, de tener imaginación de que Messi va a venir acá, because he comes y vacaciones en Miami, está con los pibes, le van a pedir autógrafo en el hotelcito, en la casa, y la pasa bien acá. Pero we don't have big names linked up. Qué sé yo, Isco, que está sin club. Look for someone que tiene Si pasa el examen médico también. No, pero que hasta yo los paso, man, y no lo puedo pasar.
Hey, come on, bro. The one thing you
No,
gotta
but
do, you
certainly
don't do.
I don't know if that I want to take the team as we look for jugadores del norte de Europa, estilo Sevilla, que buscan por esos lados y sacan oro de entre la tierra.
Yeah.
The whole idea for selling in MLS, you get people out, and we don't have like un semillero de jugadores que vienen de abajo.
Yeah.
Porque
Right.
no,
I mean,
We don't. We
yeah,
don't
well, I
even give
mean,
them a chance.
yeah, you have teams like Seattle who had a 16-year-old who started a bunch of games for them last year. We don't have that in ours.
bro,
And
we
I
don't
don't
have
think
a Maximo.
we don't.
Do you know Maximo Carrizo, the New York
Yes,
City FC?
yes,
He's
yes.
he's 14, 15-year-old. He has first team homegrown first team contract. Ya está entrenando con el primer equipo, and there's a
You
hype
see?
around him. Do we have that? No.
Right.
Do we have a hype to have a Ricardo Pepi coming up and balling up? No.
No,
Like,
no,
have you're
no.
not 6 feet tall, they don't want you.
You're right.
Sí, no,
You're right.
sí.
So I mean, at the end of the day, I think we can all agree that we're very disappointed. This isn't the signing that we wanted, and it's we're really looking more from the Inter Miami front office and from Chris Henderson and his team of scouts that he has around the world. So that
I don't know around the world, right? I think it's only in one specific
Look,
section.
I hope he turns out and shuts me up and he balls out, pero
yeah, we'll see.
I
We'll
saw
see
the
what
pictures and
we'll see what happens there. Let's welcome in Nico here for this next segment.
There we go.
As we get more into this
Easy
second
there, socio.
podcast.
Sé que le tenés ganas a Nico.
Welcome.
¿Qué
Nico.
pasó, muchachos? A ver, pará, que me está llamando alguien.
Hey.
No? All right.
¿Todo bien, muchachos? ¿Todo bien?
So we just finished. Everything's good, man. We just finished talking about the disappointing Inter news, and I want to get into one last Inter topic.
Why? Disappointed on what?
Well, we're really disappointed in the new signing and the new center back from Ukraine. This 31-year-old, this obscure player who nobody who's ever really heard of him until they announced him at Inter Miami today.
He has been playing. He has been playing in the champion team in Ukraine. So we'll see how it goes.
I mean, we
don't
talked.
know that yet.
Well, we talked about his 145 caps.
In a while.
He has good caps. It's not a bad thing. It's true that he hasn't been playing in the last season in Shakhtar, but for various reasons. It's not just his age or his display on the pitch, but also because Ukraine hasn't had a league.
So he must be well rested then.
He's gonna be well rested. That's number one. And number two, we got to give the guy the benefit of the doubt. We came out here. We
all agreed. We'll give him the benefit of the doubt.
Okay, there you go.
I already see it. 40-yard pass to Ari Lassiter. La baja. My daughter there, say hello. La baja tranquilito. Centro ahí a Joseph. Joseph se quita 3. Le da el pase a Campana y gol. Listo. Vamos.
I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. Number one, because he's coming from Europe. Number two, because he's a Ukrainian player. And as you guys know, that side of the world, those players are
they
very, very tough.
They have a mix. They're tactical and they're good with their feet.
They're very tactical. They're good with their feet. And I know that he's coming into an unknown league.
I just don't want him to be
I'm pretty sure we actually needed something in the back line. And honestly, if that's the best the club could do, then we'll have to see the results on the pitch.
Absolutely.
I don't know.
Absolutely.
We're running in Pacey League y tenemos un defensor de 31 años from the middle of the war.
Yeah.
In 25 days, we'll see how we start, bro.
We'll see what happens when we start. But let's talk about the other big news from last week, Inter Miami news. Guys, we're finally going to get a stadium. At least that's what it looks like. We saw the Miami Herald reported. Miami Herald reported that Mel Reese will close on March 19th. It has been reported that the Kendall Golf League is hosting its last tournament at Mel Reese on March 11th.
You going?
I might make an appearance. There might be a guest appearance by me.
Couple swings there.
Absolutely, yeah. We'll see what I can do with a driver. My issue is the putting. But what I really wanted to ask you guys is, what's your favorite part about this project? This project of bringing this stadium to Miami, basically.
Who wants to take it first? Should I go?
Go ahead.
All right. From MLS, it's always been that Inter Miami needs their own fan base and close to the city that they promised to be in. That's always been the talk. Y lastimosamente, we've been to the stadium. The stadium doesn't get packed. We escuchamos ahí a Neville en press conference cuando estaban for playoff run y dentro de playoffs. Fans, come, come. Por más que vayan los aficionados, los que van con los tambores, las banderas y los papelitos y todo, el estadio no te da una atmósfera como en Atlanta, en Portland, en Seattle,
De
nada.
nada.
O sea, no hay una presión como tal dentro del estadio y se necesita. Y yo creo que ese es un gran paso, uno, para traer figuras, para que la gente se emocione, para que el club vaya en la dirección que creo que todos los aficionados de MLS, todos los aficionados que quieran que el Inter Miami le vaya bien y no sea solo un equipo más dentro de MLS. And I think it was overdue. I think it should have been like priority number one. No hay descenso en MLS, so if we don't get good signings or anything, and we just try to play the league and get the most points and see if we can get into playoffs and get a couple playoffs games in the Dry Pink Stadium. But long overdue, man. I know MLS has been wanted the same thing they're expecting from New York City FC to have their own stadium. So I'm excited. I want to see a nice stadium, and go to the games, take my kids, and hopefully not have thunder delays and be there for like 3 hours and only be able to see first half.
Yeah, dude, like Juan said right there, dude, it's gonna pop off. You have downtown, you have, bueno, estamos cerca del aeropuerto y eso, sí, you have the little Havana area, you have Coral Gables, you have Coconut Grove. Yo, it's gonna be beautiful. I can't wait, bro. I can't wait.
Bro,
Eso sí, we're gonna have more fireworks issues, pero I think Miami International Airport is more lenient. I think they're not gonna care. But I can't wait, bro. I can't wait.
I think it was a bit overdue.
Of course.
Yeah, I agree with Ranier, in a couple of topics. And at the end of the day, it's where we wanted the team. I know that some people said when the first plans came out, it was going to be around Miami Beach area or Bayside area, and we just couldn't happen. We just couldn't happen to make it there, So I think he's going to be in a good spot. Very, very good central piece to the city, and I can't wait. I can't wait to actually see the final product.
Well, yeah, I do agree with our follower there, Federico. It is devastating news about losing that golf course as a fellow golfer, but I really hope you're right that the team is waiting for it to make that splash.
Yeah.
When we get that stadium.
When was the last time you went to Melrose to golf? Prior to KGL?
2 weeks ago.
Prior to KGL. Not in preparation for KGL ni nada de eso.
2 weeks ago.
¿Para qué? ¿Para ver dónde estacionás para cuando estén los partidos de
Inter? Yeah. Where do all my season tickets see that? Yeah, exactly.
Section C 234 right there.
I guess devastating for the handful of people, the 12 members that go and play golf there.
Yeah.
Get rid of it.
Let's get into probably the biggest part of the show so far since we started. This is Futbol. I want to welcome our first ever guest. He's someone who I've shared the pitch with. I've never shared the microphone with. He's the voice of our wonderful Inter Miami Football Club. He's commentated on a bunch of other football games. He's a producer of the Little Bit Art Show, and he also, I believe, hosts a podcast with the great Grant Wall. So I want to welcome Chris Whittingham onto the show. Welcome, Chris.
Thanks for having me, guys. How's it going here on This is Futbol this evening?
Hey, my brother.
Doing good, Chris. How are you, man?
Doing good. How's everybody?
How are you, Chris? Long time no see.
Good to see you, man.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
Yeah, man, we're excited here to get this new project, off and popping, and lifelong soccer friends here. We got a few more on the project, but really we're excited to get you on here. There's a lot of interesting U.S. men's national team news that has come out. It's transfer deadline day. I know you've been keeping tabs on Man City. My buddy over there, Socio, has been keeping tabs on Arsenal. and Nico's been keeping tabs on Liverpool. So
or
we've got
everyone, or we can say everyone.
on everyone, but really he's a Liverpool supporter. So we've got a lot to talk about here. I really want to get into what happened to the U.S. men's national team at the World Cup. They had a really interesting group stage with England and Wales in it, and then kind of again an obscure Iran team. It was kind of a weird group. You had the U.S., England, Wales, and Iran. You get 2 ties and then a win, and you get through into that knockout stage, which is I think was a win for the U.S. men's national team.
Yeah, I think looking on the World Cup as a whole, it's not just the manner in which they achieved the results, which I thought they probably faded against Wales, and they could have done more to change the game. But I think in the overall, you look at the manner of the performance, there's so much to be pleased about when you look at the way the U.S. played in the World Cup. Not just that they went there to try and achieve a result, but also do so in a particular style. I think the way that the U.S. plays carries more significance than perhaps it does with other countries. Other countries are just there to achieve results. I guess Brazil has to play with samba flair, and the Netherlands have to play total football, although they didn't really at this World Cup. But I think the U.S. have to sort of set the benchmark for the sport and the country with the way that they play, and I thought that they did. I thought that they carried their flag really impressively. I thought they were really dominant for the first 60 minutes against Wales, and then kind of faltered. I thought they gave a really good account of themselves against England, and then did what they needed to against Wales. And then it kind of comes down to, I think, in the game against the Netherlands, you just see really an overall wear and tear with the way that they tried to play, and they just sort of ran out of gas. You look at the mistakes that they made in that Netherlands game. It was a bunch of players who had put in so much over the course of the World Cup, and they just didn't have cover. Tyler Adams probably should not have played every single minute of every single game, but he needed to. And I think that's because there isn't a suitable backup for him. I think the next 4 years are about building on the team that currently exists, building on the style that was implemented in the World Cup, and adding to it with more new players that are coming through, and hopefully a new generation of players is forming even behind this one, which is one of the best generations of American soccer players we've ever seen.
Now, Chris, going back to what you said, do you believe that the U.S. has actually a style of play, or do you think that in this 3.5 years, it's some time that we're actually going to have to develop that?
Well, I think they did have one for the last 4 years, and I think it was very clear that Greg Berhalter was sort of implementing it over the course of time from the first game that they played. He kind of almost implemented a Barcelona kind of system, which I thought was bizarre for, to do with a bunch of domestic-based American players. But
the reason why I asked is because
yeah.
in the World Cup, we saw a team where they had an amazing performance against England that kind of like got everyone hyped. Everyone said, okay,
yeah,
we just tied a very, very promising team, a team that it's supposed to be one of the candidates to actually make it all the way through. And then that kind of faded when we played Iran, don't you think?
I thought they were decent against Iran. I think the one thing that you can definitely say is in the last 10 minutes plus stoppage time, which you knew at the World Cup was another 10 minutes, they were sort of hanging on for dear life, and that wasn't the best look. But I mean, we saw a lot of teams at this World Cup that are of a higher level than the United States hang on for dear life. I think for the most part, they set about a way of playing. But to answer your question, though, I think it was defined under Greg Berhalter, and people can quibble with it for as much as they want. And there were certainly moments over the course of the last 4 years that weren't perfect, and I will certainly acknowledge that. But at the very least, he had an idea. And the one thing that is concerning for me going forward is because they've essentially gotten rid of everyone. It hasn't been officially confirmed that Greg Berhalter is not returning, although we can probably safely assume that. It can kind of completely turn over. It can kind of be molded in the identity of somebody else. And that was I think, my biggest quibble with how these last 2 months have gone since the World Cup ended, or like a month and a half since the World Cup ended, which is we don't really know what the United States is going to be in soccer over the next 3.5 years. They can hire a super pragmatic manager and everything can completely change. That it's sort of manager based as opposed to this is who we are as a country. And there are some people on this call that are, from countries where what that is, right? Uruguay, Daniel, you know who they are, right? You
Right,
know
right.
who they've been for 20 years. It's
Right.
a very defined style. This is who we are as a country. I think the U.S. can still kind of be molded by a person, and I'm not certain that that's a good thing.
Right. And I totally agree. And really, I think, I mean, kind of getting into, you mentioned Berhalter, maybe not coming back. It's not certain. I heard Alexi Lala say earlier this week.
Maybe.
Well,
Maybe.
I just want to mention. I mean, I heard Alexi Lala say earlier this week that Berhalter is probably going to end up with either an MLS coaching job or coaching in a small international country. So, I mean, I guess that kind of says it all. And really, I mean, my question for Chris is, and then I can open it up to the forum, but is, do you think that has something to do with the Gio Reyna kind of controversy? And if it does, what does that show us as fans of, I guess, secondary fans of U.S. men's national team, that, what Gio Reyna's family has kind of this kind of aura over the U.S. men's national team or the organization?
I think Greg Berhalter does deserve criticism for how he handled it. I don't think that, like, telling Gio Reyna, setting expectations, saying this is what I think for you, or even, it's been reported since that, I think the Borussia Dortmund sporting director said that he's still not 100% healthy, and he's been with the club for a few weeks now, ever since the World Cup ended. I happen to know that he was not 100% healthy at the World Cup. So I do think that certainly plays a role, that his lack of health, it played a role in him not playing as much. But I thought Berhalter mostly handled it well up until the point in which you talk about it publicly. And talking about it publicly, albeit, in an off-the-record forum,
exactly.
Is what set the wheels in motion for why the Reynas decided to take this public. Because Greg took it public, and I'm not defending that behavior whatsoever.
It's a domino effect. It's a domino effect.
I'm just explaining why it happened, which is
it was two wrongs at the end. You can
correct.
Yeah,
it was two wrongs, but I mean the second probably far bigger than the first. But either way, like his
we
handling
cannot go
of it,
20-something years back because my son doesn't play.
Yeah, that was low.
Correct.
That was
Correct.
low.
But ultimately his handling had something to do with why that was out there. But I don't think necessarily that's the reason.
If we go back into performances, and going into the World Cup, yes, I do that. Berhalter had some criticism to do with this, but on the pitch, if we specifically talk about that, I don't think Gio Reyna made a huge impact in the last 4 or 5 games in the U.S.
Well, I mean, what's your favorite Gio Reyna U.S. goal? Was it the penalty he scored after they won the Nations League in a friendly in Salt Lake?
For a moment. The only moment was that run in the Azteca. And 4 or 5 guys, and that's it. That was the hype. Which,
by the way, is not for me to say that I don't think that Gio Reyna is going to be a really good player. Yeah. He's scored a world for talent. Borussia Dortmund last weekend, but for the U.S., like, I think Timothy Weah deserved the chance to play on the right wing. I think Christian Pulisic deserved the chance to play on the left wing. I think Musa McKennie and Adams is their best midfield. Like, you just run out of places, and so
Berhalter even had to leave out a player that was coming on fantastic form in his last few games at Leeds with Brandon Eriksson.
Yeah,
and he didn't even have place for him.
He did not start a game at the World Cup, and he took it in stride, which is what a professional does. So, in my view, I think Reyna did not cover himself in glory, but Berhalter didn't either. To answer your original question, though, about whether or not that actually affects his longer-term status, I think it has more probably to do with the level of respect that American coaches have, that he couldn't. I mean, Berhalter got some credit. The U.S. got some credit over the course of the World Cup, but ultimately, who is the major European club or even mid-tier European club that's going to hire Greg Berhalter? I think if you think of the coaches that have gone to do big things or done even moderate things in Europe, Jesse Marsch had a obvious link with the Red Bull group, and Bob Bradley has put in 20 years and even still only lasted 10 games at Swansea. Like, big Americans don't get big coaching jobs in Europe. So it would have to be another international side, a smaller club in Europe, or an MLS club,
or even assisting like Chris Armas is doing now.
Yeah, he's joined up at Leeds, and he was previously an assistant at Manchester United. But
I don't see Berhalter being an assistant manager on any team. I think he likes his own project. He likes to be the face of it.
Even in Columbus, the players.
Yeah, absolutely. So
Well,
he's
and
just going to go back into the cycle of the MLS.
Right. Well, and talking about coaches now, since now the U.S. men's national team is probably without a coach and actually without a sporting director and a GM, since Ernie Stewart and Brian McBride are on their way out as well. Anthony Hudson is currently coaching the team as an interim manager. I know Socio did a little bit of research on him. I mean, I don't know what his opinion is on him. I watched a couple of highlights of the last couple games they played. I don't know. I mean, I don't. You can't get a read on him. I don't think you can.
Anthony
he has the
Hudson
right
is the guy that
players.
stayed. Is the guy that stayed. So
Yeah, he was the guy who was still under contract. Him and
Right.
So
and one other
there's no
assistant.
other reason for him to.
If
to keep
Lucci
going.
Gonzalez hadn't taken the San Jose job, it would have been.
It would
him.
have been, yeah,
Right.
most
Right.
likely.
So I mean, really, the general consensus among everything that I've read, and I'm sure among everything you read, Chris, and you guys, is Jesse Marsh, Jim Curtin, or Marcelo Bielsa. And actually, that was what one of our fans there wrote a
Right off
comment
the
about
bat, I will
Marcelo
tell you that
Bielsa.
Jesse Marsh has no chance coming to the U.S.
So
Bielsa
I mean,
would be a dream.
yeah. So I mean,
Just think about this: the next 4 years to 2026 World Cup, there's no World Cup qualifiers. You only play friendlies. You only play
No.
Nations League. You only play
Gold
Copa
Cup
Oro, and then
and
Copa
Copa America.
America. Okay, that's about it. But there's no World Cup qualifiers, so that gives you a handful of really good games, and then a few friendlies that you can get here and there. But in those friendlies, fecha FIFA, there's Nations League in Europe. So what good team can you play
Yeah.
against? No, maybe play a friendly against Mexico to fill out a couple stadiums, get that bag, and look for another game. I would like to see a project to build up players and I think Bielsa or el prototipo Bielsa, should be
Yeah,
the head
yeah.
coach.
Going into finding the right coach for this type of players, this type of generation that we've got in our
Yeah,
hands.
but we say that every generation. We're on like on generation 3 saying the same thing. We gotta
No.
find.
I believe this generation is probably arguably 2-3 steps ahead.
It's the
of
most
ones that
talented
you have.
one ever.
No, yeah.
talent-wise.
No, eso no lo niego. Of course, super talented, but come on.
Who's your favorite, Chris?
I like the Bielsa shout. I'm curious whether or not he's a fit for U.S. soccer. I know that that sounds bad or that it's sort of.
I agree. That's why I say
Yeah,
prototype.
wouldn't make. Yeah.
I need a figure like that.
But I mean, if we're saying that the United States is not playing that many games of significance between now and then, the one reason why I think Bielsa would be a tough hire, and I think in general for international teams, it's tough to pull off, is that his style of play, for me, seems like it would require months and months on the training ground, which, by the way, he acknowledges himself because he was also linked with the job at Everton, where you do get time on the training ground every day. And he went there and said, I want to manage the youth team, and then I'll take over the senior team after the end of the season because I want to implement my ideas throughout the club, and an interim can finish out the season because he recognizes that his ideas take time. And I've just always wondered, it doesn't really make much sense to me for him to fit into a national team. But if you have 3.5 years where you're not really playing that many games of significance, maybe you can take the lumps of playing a full man-marking style over the pitch. It's a crazy way to go about playing the game, but if you get the commitment, and they certainly have the athleticism to pull it off, I think you could. To me, what I'm curious about with this vacancy are the wild cards, because I'm not certain that we know who actually the U.S. Soccer Federation is considering. It was reported by The Sun that they were in for Jose Mourinho. Seems impossible for me.
I heard that.
But Bielsa, Jim Curtin, those sorts of names are the ones that we know about. I'm curious, what are the names that we don't know about? Like, for example, today it was revealed that Gennaro Gattuso, the manager of Valencia, is leaving. Would he be interested in this job? I don't know. But if we're talking about being in the ballpark of Jose Mourinho, then maybe you're in the ballpark of Gattuso. I genuinely don't know how far-ranging this search is. We know that it can be very far-ranging, though, because the last time this job was open, Julian Lopetegui expressed interest, and he would be an incredible hire for the U.S. Tata Martino was interested. I don't know how much his stock has fallen after the failed experiment with Mexico, but I think there are lots of people that are out there. I just saw you flashed a comment, Roberto Martinez. He was out there, but he's now the manager.
Unfortunately, he's done.
He's the manager of Portugal now. I genuinely don't know what's out there, and I think they're going to wait until the summer because I think we don't know who might get fired from the European club jobs. We don't know who might become available over the course of the next few
You
months.
think Jesse Marsh will drop a lead project and come over here?
I think he would have to get fired.
Yeah.
But I do think, and
take
again, this is somewhat informed,
Yeah.
that he would be very interested in being the U.S. men's national team coach. But if you're a manager of a Premier League team, you see that through to its conclusion. And they just backed him with the Weston McKennie signing in this window. I think they bought another striker for $28 million in this window too, Leeds United. So they're going for it to stay in the league. They're backing Jesse Marsh. That team will eventually be owned by the same owners that own the San Francisco 49ers, which is obviously an American-based ownership group. They appear to be really backing Jesse Marsh. And if you're him, I don't think you can leave that Premier League project until you failed.
And like Ranier says, he ticks all those boxes, that prototype. Jesse's interesting. I like him.
Yeah, now going back to it, if we understand that we're trying to get maybe a European coach or maybe someone from the region. However, I've heard a lot of names, and every single name just plays about differently. So that's a concerning part to me, because
completely agree.
I just don't know what they're trying to do as a plan and who are they trying to bring.
That's the thing. We don't have a GM or a sporting director, so we don't know exactly the direction we're going.
Right.
Who, by the way, will be hired first before the manager gets hired.
Exactly.
That's
what Cindy Parlacone said.
It doesn't make for interesting podcast content if we did the who are the sporting director candidates? Do you guys have anybody from the Netherlands that you're interested in?
Claudio Reina, right?
Oh no, come on. we can't be having that. We can't be having that. But
how about locally? How about locally? What you think? Who are the ones? Because I haven't heard those names, on different spaces. I do have a few good candidates, but I want to hear yours.
Yeah, I think you'd have to probably look towards MLS in the executive ranks if we're looking for American-based. I think John Thorrington would make a ton of sense. He's currently the sporting director at LAFC. He's done a tremendous job, again, not just building like a great team, but also seemingly having a philosophy where when LAFC step on the field, how they're going to play. I would say, if not for the fact that he just took a job moving from Seattle to Atlanta, Garth Lagerwey, who's now the CEO of Atlanta. But again, it's one of those things where I feel like when the national team calls, any American is sort of like at your service.
Yes,
but that would feel like a bad one for Garth Lagerwey to make the big move across the country, take the money of Arthur Blank, and then leave after a few months before you've even played a game. So. I think you'd probably look towards the upper tier of American figures in MLS. But I think, again, that's going to be another global search looking, for a figure. I think you probably look towards countries where you've seen influences before. The Netherlands might be one. Maybe England might be one. I certainly think they should turn over every stone in South America and see if there's any sporting figures there. But I'm not as it's not as exciting, and I'm not as well versed in sporting director candidates as I am in coaching candidates. It's way more fun.
And do you feel like there's good sources as far as coaches in the US, in the MLS?
I think so. I think you can probably come up with a few candidates. I think Peter Vermees at Sporting Kansas City. I think Jim Curtin at Philadelphia Union, not just because he's doing well now and he plays a very particular style of play now that's coming from the top down, but he's coached well in two different styles. So you can kind of... Yeah, he has not renewed. And it's a club that I think Jim Curtin probably thinks he can manage in Europe at some point. He's managing in sort of a very European kind of setup, but also not one that spends a ton of money. And I think coaches like to sort of look towards jobs that allow them chances to spend money more than the ones that they're at.
How about Gio Savarese?
Yeah, that was one of the names that I had read in one of the articles as an outside
interesting
name.
One.
Well, the two were Giovanni Savarese and Tab Ramos, which, although he had a really bad showing in Houston, he had a really successful run. Well, right, he had a successful run as a U.S. men's national team youth coach, and he's been connected to the U.S. men's national team system for a long time. So he wouldn't be a bad option. But he's also Uruguayan, by the way.
I feel like that option will be plan D or E type of option, where you do your search in Europe, you do your search for the style that you're trying to play throughout this 3.5 years, and then you just go with the closest guy to that.
Completely agree. I think this program has the chance now over the course of the next 5 months to shoot for the stars. And I think that's what they have to do because it's a home World Cup. I know that there's not a lot in between, but I wonder if Qatar might be regretting the fact that they didn't, with all the money in the world that they have, really go for somebody big. And they instead went for a relative unknown who, while went through the levels in Qatar and kind of helped build the program from the ground up, clearly didn't have the big game experience to be able to lead that country in the World Cup. So I wonder what the salary amount that the U.S. can afford to pay is. For as much as, we think the U.S. is sort of unlimited resources by virtue of where they are, I do think that it's not a federation that's completely made of money, that if they went out and spend 8 to 10 million on a salary, that's a big expenditure for them. So I wonder what ballpark they're playing in. But I think that they should try every big name, every kind of figure that could get people excited. I'm not a big Jose Mourinho guy. I only bring him up because it was reported. But I mean, it would certainly draw headlines to get people excited. But I think that's the sort of stratosphere that the U.S. should at least shoot for. And honestly, a lot of this stuff won't leak, so they can, make calls and make overtures to agents. And it was reported that they made an overture to Zidane, and Zidane was like, "Nah, I'm good." But honestly, I'm glad that they're shooting at that level because that's sort of where they should be. Getting to your best in MLS should sort of be fallback options, I think, at this point.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, I think we should really get into transfer talk because I think that's going to be the most exciting. And if you want to stay on, Chris, a little while longer and debate.
Yeah, give us your take of your team, man. Give us your take. Give us your take of your beloved citizens.
I'll give my take and then on my team and I'll jump off. So Joao Cancelo, where did that come from?
And a little fight with Pep Guardiola.
I know. I saw it was reported in the Daily Mail that he got into a fight with Pep Guardiola. And also I saw a clip today that was recycling of Pep Guardiola doing an interview with Rio Ferdinand. And he was like, so Rio asked him, so how do you keep this going? And he goes, you played for 6 title teams. Sir Alex Ferguson always changed the team. Yeah. You always got to keep changing the team. But it's so weird to me how it happens from one day to the next because Cancelo, didn't miss a game last year, didn't really miss a game in the first half of the year. An academy kid comes up and, plays some right back for them. And all of a sudden, all right, Joe Cancelo, you're expendable. You're good. Get out of here. And it's just wild to me how quickly it happens. But
that's the luxury that a Manchester City team could only have.
But the fallback option is the fallback option still an academy player. Like that's not because they're richer than any other team and they're deciding, hey man, we're gonna go win the Champions League and our A1 right back is gonna be an 18-year-old academy kid.
Well, you got Kyle Walker. Right,
that's true.
Kyle Walker's going to play. That's true. Even though Rico Lewis is actually playing right now, I feel like he's adapting into the system, and Pep is giving him this time because he's managing time. He's managing the game time for players for the most important part of the season, which is coming up in the next months.
But I also wonder, because Cancelo operated a lot as a left back for them too, I wonder as well, like, are they going to continue? They have to because they didn't sign any more players. They're going to have to play more as a center back or center backs in fullback areas, right?
The back
center backs. Yeah. It shifts when they have the ball, and then when they don't have the ball, they kind of spread back out to a forward.
I also feel like Pep took in consideration the rise of the performances by Nathan Ake this year. I think he's been a fantastic player. Might be the best center back City has played so far this year.
Yeah, I mean, Ruben Diaz has been hurt all season. I think John Stones has acquitted himself really well when he's been asked to play right back. But
he's been back and forth.
That's fair.
He's had his slumps and he also had his injuries. So
I just wonder, as they move towards the end of the season, there have been times in the last month in particular since the World Cup where I don't feel like I'm seeing City at their very best. It's been a while. Despite the fact that Erling Haaland is probably going to set the Premier League record for goals in a season,
they haven't been better. They haven't
they haven't like their overall play is not as prolific.
Don't worry, Chris. I'm gonna put all your bad feelings to rest. Jorginho going to Arsenal is literally the cancer, and that's it. They just
Jeez.
handed the league over to Man City. So that's what I'm saying. I'm saying Man City's going to take the league over
Jorginho's going to be
Arsenal.
playing Europa League and off
Never.
the bench. Granted,
Never.
Xhaka and Thomas Partey is still
I
the
don't
base
know.
of
Unless they
the,
get
the
injured.
base of the
Unless they get
midfield there.
injured.
Yeah,
We'll
he's
see.
coming
We'll
off the
see.
bench.
But I don't know. I still
I
have
think
faith in
Manchester
City.
City
I'll
will
call it
win.
right now.
Yeah.
A tie and a W in these 2 matches that we have with City.
Could
Calling it
be.
right
Could
now.
be.
All right,
We'll
we'll
see.
see.
Tie and a W.
Only time will tell.
Only
We'll
time will
see.
tell.
We'll
You just
see.
got to remember that the professor is playing the student.
Yeah, and look what the professor is fucking up. Selling his best assets. Zinchenko, oh my god, what a steal. Steal of the
Yeah,
season.
that is the signing of the
Zinchenko's a
season.
beast.
Of
That
all,
kid. Intelligence, his IQ is ridiculous. Oh my god, watching him now yeah. I said at first, I'll admit it, because I was a big Tierney fan. Old school left back, and I was like, yeah, nah, Zinchenko's coming to, just in case Tierney loses it. Yeah, all right. Tierney lost it the first one. He hasn't been back. Zinchenko's a beast, man.
He's a really good player, and it's one of those where
that's a one I never understood why he left. I get it. He wanted to be
But it's
starter.
30
Pep.
mil.
But guys, it's
30
Pep.
million.
Pep's
30
that type of coach. Pep has that luxury. Pep is the type of manager where if you're not happy at it, there's the door. We'll go and find someone else.
And he was always the 11th best player on the field at Manchester City. He always kind of even from when he signed originally, he signed as an attacking midfielder. And so when they moved him to left back, he's like, what am I doing here? And he always kind of seemed like, and I always notice this when City play away at Anfield. I hate that place. And, and so there's always the 11th best player on the field. It was Zinchenko at times. It was, Otamendi at others. It was I've seen a number of players where it's like, God, you're the 11th best player. And I really wish you weren't playing right now. But Zinchenko, for me, kind of felt like that guy. And I actually think it's a credit to him and Jesus and Mikel Arteta for the way that he's been able to bring those players more to the fore when they were rotational pieces for City and turn them into key cogs. And honestly, Jesus was such a big part of the first half of the season. And now that he's been hurt, and to me, the sign of a good team is you lose players and the players don't define you. And Eddie Nketiah has come in and has not been a prolific striker up until now, but is playing really well right now. And I think it's because the overall system at Arsenal is buzzing right now. You can plug anybody in there, it seems like right now, and it works. And that for me is whenever you hear a team say, oh, we need a striker, that's because your team's not functioning. It's a striker will fix it. Your team isn't functioning. And so you're not creating the good enough chances for the players up top, and you need some 25 million pound striker to bail you out. That's for me not a sustainable route towards fixing your problems. Arsenal have actually fixed their problems because they could probably put anybody up there. They could put Martinelli up there. They can bring Folarin Balogun back from loan, and he would score goals for Arsenal.
Fantastic, lad.
So
a perfect example is this past City game. We still made 6 subs, and the system was the same. Yes, touches here and there lacked, obviously, because it isn't the starting 11, but the system was still the same.
Yeah. Gave City a really good game, a really tough game in the FA Cup when City were clearly taking it seriously because they kind of recognized, all right, we got to beat Arsenal to kind of set the tone for this series. Exactly. But I actually think Arsenal in losing might have set the tone a bit more because they were still really good. They gave themselves a good game.
There was a key moment in that game that I feel that Arsenal made the push towards the end of the deadline to bring in a center midfielder because of what they saw in the game. And that was the sub off of Thomas Partey. I think it was minute 60 or something. 60. And the team completely got outplayed after then. So that's a big pillar of the team that they knew that they needed to get someone on the transfer deadline. And it didn't help that I'm not glad because I don't want Arsenal to win the title. We have a lot of Arsenal supporters that are unbearable.
You worry about mid-table, Bobby.
They're going to turn
out.
If they win, they're going to turn out to be worse than some of my Argentinian
colleagues. Can't hear you
colleagues.
from up here. I can't hear you from up here. Top of the league, baby.
But again, going back to that, the almost signing of Moises Caicedo kind of pushed the team to actually get a center mid. And I think Jorginho is going to turn in fantastically. I see a lot of hate, or if you don't want to call it hate, a lot of Arsenal
I'm 50-50 on it. I get it.
I think he brings the experience. I think he brings the experience that team needs. You know,
No, and the
proven winner.
calmness. He brings a horrible. I mean, a bag of experience. I saw it at first as he's gonna slow our tempo coming out of the field. Pero thinking long run towards the end of the season, when hopefully we're still ahead y todo eso, and it's a long. You need a player like that to kind of, hey, all right, let's knock it, let's calm it down. So I'm trying to be positive, but at first I'm not gonna lie to you, I don't really like it.
I don't know. I still
But again,
think
it's also
City's gonna
because
come
I
back.
got spoiled and I was teased first. First I lost Mudryk. That kid's gonna be a beast. And then Caicedo flirted, and then he sent out that Instagram. I saw that Instagram post, and I was like, all right, we got it. De Zerbi said no. Matumbo does. No. Go rest. Go with your wife. Tranquilo. But hey, man, there's gonna be a great second half of the season. Though. I'm excited.
It is definitely looking forward to the second half. So, all right, Chris. Well, we'll let you get out of here, and we really appreciate you for joining us.
Thank you, Chris, my brother.
Yeah,
And,
thanks, gents. Good to see you guys.
All right,
Thank you,
man.
Chris. Take care, man.
Have a good one.
Club
All
out.
right. So that was great, guys, for having our first guest. I think we can continue talking transfer maybe for a few more minutes, and then maybe answer some questions from some of our.
Talk about the transfer of the
guests.
day. We talked a lot about a Premier League, but we did not talk about the transfer of the day.
All right, let's see.
130 million,
failed. Yeah.
130 million euros.
I think he's in this picture
Enzo
around here.
Fernandez.
In my background.
Unreal. What you guys think about that move?
Overrated. Paid
I think
120 million too much.
Yeah.
Well,
it just became an obsession from Chelsea.
Well, he becomes the highest ever paid Argentinian player for a transfer ever. Isn't that correct?
He becomes the highest transfer ever for a Premier League club.
For a Premier League club.
Yeah. Well, also for
más caro, el fichaje más caro de Premier, todo.
And also most expensive player for Benfica sold too as well, right?
No,
Darwin.
Joao Felix was one. Joao Felix was one, and he's two, and Darwin was three.
Paquete.
Yeah. We'll see.
What do you think? You guys think that he's going to adapt in Chelsea?
I think
it's going to take a minute. It's going to take a minute, but that team on paper is rowdy.
I don't think it's going to take a minute. I don't think it's going to take a minute. I think
this is the perfect time.
Creo que como con Benfica en Champions, en Liga Sagres o Primera de Portugal, he's just going to take control of the midfield, comandar, ser el dueño del mediocampo. I think he proved in the World Cup, not 7 games like Socio says in the chats. But I think he's going to be a good addition to Chelsea. I just think it was if they would have waited for next season, they wouldn't pay that much, knowing that Benfica and Rui Costa, how they like to work around, how they like to sell.
I don't know. It looks like one of our fans says that he's going to hate London in a month. So, I've personally never been to London. I don't know if one of you three have. I don't know what the food is like or not, but I mean,
beautiful summer in London, bro. Raining every day. Nice.
There you go, man. There you go. I mean, another one of our fans here, he wants to know, and this is probably towards our Liverpool fan, but he wants to know when is Darwin going to start banging them in? And I think I agree. I mean, Klopp keeps telling us, he's going to bang him in. He's going to bang him in. I trust Klopp. I think he's going to bang him in. What do you think?
Do you really trust Klopp though? Darwin entró el partido pasado on the wing with Cody.
You guys also said Gakpo's not coming in to bench Darwin. With Darwin the last 5 games, sentadito.
Well, to be honest, he had an injury. To be honest, he had an injury. So
I just think
you can't really talk and say
with the injuries and everything hasn't found his starting.
That number one. Number two, the club knows that the season's over. The season has nothing to be played for. Top 4 might take a miracle, like maybe last year.
Brian flipped it on you.
Maybe last year against when Alisson scored that header. That type of miracle is probably going to be needed to make a top 4. What worries me about the club, not in general, because I know that Darwin, once he has the right players around him, he's going to start banging in goals left and right.
Yeah, you sold the wrong African. I've been saying.
He has all the right tangibles to be played.
Nobody's saying he's a bad player. We're saying that
No, of course not. But he has
the
the
team is
horrible
bad for
pieces
him.
around him.
Yeah.
See, yeah,
then you can say the
Milner,
same.
Jordan
Then you can
Henderson,
say the
it's time
same
to
case
retire,
about Cody
bro.
Gakpo. Cody Gakpo was a guy that was coming up 25 goals and 10 assists in the past 4 months. He comes into a Liverpool team that
Yeah, but you
doesn't
don't
have
play
the
like
style
that.
of play that
Nowadays,
he
you get a 6-month highlight and you get paid
has.
rowdy.
No.
1,000 injuries. There was some news today that Konate is injured. That makes 17 hamstring injuries in the past 12 months.
Konate.
You know,
Mr.
so
Konate,
those are problems. Those are problems that you also gotta take in. You know, when it comes to the form of the player and when it comes to the style of the player. I think that Darwin and Gakpo are gonna be really, really good players for them.
Also, you started your season with the
And
whole.
we'll see next year. What worries me about next year is the lack of commitment to sign players this window. And the reason why I say that
This
is
window,
because
the summer window.
the reason why I say that is because by not signing anyone this window, you're gonna have a lot of players that are gonna be sent off from the squad next year. You know, you're gonna have Milner, you're gonna have Keita, you're gonna have Oxlade-Chamberlain. You know, you're gonna have a lot of midfielders primarily that are gonna be, you know, giving off in their contracts, and that's an issue because when was the last time? Unless this transfer window that Chelsea just had, where they paid over $400 million for all their players, I haven't seen any other transfer window where a team just goes crazy and signs 3, 4, 5, 6 players in high numbers, especially because of how the market is today.
Bueno, Muerto de Bowley giving out 8.5-year contracts.
Yeah, man.
Several records over there.
But even if you do give them 8.5 million contracts, you're still paying the clubs 100 million, 150 million for players that, you know.
Yeah, and you're seeing 10 million
kind of a risk.
Front.
The only thing I'm
10-year payment plan.
Chelsea. I'm not defending Chelsea. The only thing is I get it why they did it now is because Todd got now. This is his transfer window. It's like, all right, now I'm breaking the rules now before they change them. I'm gonna make my team. FIFA, you want to send your comunicado? They cannot make 8-year contract. All right, I'll take that into consideration. Next window, but this one, I'm gonna do 8 for you, 8 for you, 8 for you, 100, 100, 100, and let's build this team. And all right, Graham, do your thing, bro.
Well, let's talk about the biggest. Let's talk about the biggest free agent out there on the market that didn't resign.
Before we do that, why don't you ask people to send us some questions, man? Send us some questions.
Yeah, I mean, we've had a couple of questions here.
Does anyone know how many games Liverpool were scored on in the first 15 minutes? That's a good point, bro. You got them ass soft. Antes también. Bro, I'm telling you. You sold the wrong African.
Also,
get that bread.
I don't even want to get into the argument.
That was a good energy.
I don't even want to get into the argument.
Losing argument. It proves it right now. Look at you.
It doesn't prove it. It doesn't prove anything because the guy hasn't had the touches that he had.
Mane, top of the world. Without Mane, 10th place.
Luis Diaz has played a max of 6 games this season.
Jordan security guard.
Still, you started your season with that like nubarrón encima con lo de Mane yéndose al Bayern. And Salah's new contract. Oh my God, Salah's gonna leave. Salah's gonna leave.
But you can't say that they signed the wrong player because
you put him over the club.
No. I'm not saying
last year, the finish of the last season, Luis Diaz was the best player for Liverpool.
But I'm not saying
he had a bad Champions League final game.
Hey, thank you.
I'm not saying that you sold that wrong player. I'm saying that you started your season with that weird energy around it, and that maybe just shifted your season.
It was an addition of things. You started with Darwin, the guy that was coming in fresh. Your new signing gets a red card. Unfortunately, you know that takes a toll on the player. It's 3 games that he's been suspended, so it's. You know, it's difficult for a player to actually catch the rhythm. Once he started catching the rhythm, then all the injuries in the middle have happened. You know, so it's not really to say or to analyze or to even debate that the reason why Liverpool's crisis is because it's Sadio Mane.
Shortest prime of a team ever, man. A couple of years.
Le dice un profesional que he doesn't know how to not get a red card. Es un pelotudo. Don't get a red card. Why are you headbutting a guy in your first game? What do you think you are? This isn't La Liga Potrero that this guy watches up there.
It's not a Liverpool Nacional, man. Relax, it's Liverpool West Ham or whatever game.
Liverpool Norwich. Let me headbutt this guy and show my authority. All right, that's 5 games.
He learned.
You sure, bro?
How
Because he
many did
hasn't
they
been scoring.
give? How many did they give Cavani for hitting the minor league?
Oh, that I didn't read. I didn't read what the sanctions were.
I think it
but we
was
can.
5
Cavani
games,
got
4
it.
games,
Cavani
6
got-
games.
For what?
In the World Cup,
For pushing the monitor. Him
votar el
and
monitor del
Josema
bar.
got rowdy punishment.
Yeah.
Josema got 3 games for
There you
the
go.
upcoming
Cavani,
ones.
how
And
many for hitting the
Cavani got 1
monitor?
game. Cavani got 1 game.
Pero bueno, whatever. All right, going back.
Yeah, so I just really what I want to ask is I want to ask you guys your prediction on the biggest free agent that's left on the market before we close out, and the name starts with the L. Lionel Messi. He didn't re-sign with PSG, as we all know. So he will most likely
But he
become a
can sign
free agent.
anytime.
He can
He
sign.
can. But my
he can
question to
negotiate
you,
right now with anyone that he wants.
and that is my question. My question to you, to the three of you, and then I'll give my prediction is, where does Lionel Messi end up playing the next season?
I'll take this one first, if you guys don't mind.
Go.
Con el corazón, I would like to see a last dance.
Give me 1 second. Uruguay 1-0, Colombia sub-20. Dale,
Arrancamos bien.
go.
Viste, vamos arriba, Uruguay nomás.
Con el corazón, yeah, I do wish a last dance. I think there's pieces around the
Thank
team
you,
in in Barcelona with Xavi, with Gavi, with Pedri, Busquets, Chao, que se venga al Inter Miami, Frankie, and I think it'll be special for him. The next season they don't play in Barcelona because it's going to be va a estar remodelándose, but I think it will be special. Now, I think he's going to renew with PSG. I think he's going to stay in PSG. More so because I think PSG is going to get rid of one of the big 3 that they have, and I think Neymar is going to go maybe Newcastle. Yeah? I think this is not info.
Wait, that's a rowdy tip. No, that's a rowdy one though.
Yeah, I think Neymar is going to end up in like Newcastle. I think Newcastle is going to do crazy signings to fight for Premier next year, and I think Neymar is going there. Therefore, Messi will stay in PSG. No veo a Messi yendo a un Manchester City con Guardiola, más porque Guardiola no lo ve y no lo va a buscar.
No se van los dos.
Sí. Y no veo a Messi coming to MLS and play. At least not yet.
I'm the opposite in the sense that I think it would make more sense coming here, seeing as he wants to make it to 2026 than defend it, which I get it, I respect.
Oh, but he's cruising in PSG.
So venirse acá, sí, pero allá regaja un poquito más. Acá va a estar tranquilo de febrero a tal.
No sé, se te cruza un defensa ucraniano en el entrenamiento y te parte ahí. Puede pasar de todo, ¿eh?
Tenés razón. This is, yeah. I don't know, Don. I was hyped, though. Y también con el de Busquets, ahora tampoco sabe, no quiere poner el huevo. He doesn't know what he wants to do with his life.
75% done.
He's to what? To la Kings League, se va el muerto.
75% done.
Xavi already told them he wants Busquets to stay one more season. But
Fabricio Remalo.
75% done. Summertime.
You heard it here first, guys, live from Fabricio, from our own. This is our Fabricio Remalo.
Inter Miami was out there watching him.
Yeah, well, the whole world watches Messi, man. That's nothing new.
My take on Messi. If you asked me before the World Cup, I would have said 100% Messi stays in PSG next season.
If he wouldn't have won?
After the World Cup, knowing that everything that happened, him winning the World Cup and being really, really happy with the team, because you got to also understand that as well. This guy plays with Argentina, and he loves it there. He loves his team. He loves his staff. He loves the environment. Now, he goes back to PSG, and I'm not so sure about that. I'm not sure that he feels the same way that he feels with Argentina than with PSG. So that has given me
it's awkward.
That has given me a little thought to say maybe, I wouldn't say 50-50 chance he doesn't sign back, but at 70-30 that he's going elsewhere.
But that's not bread that's going to drop.
That elsewhere could only be 3 places. Going back to Barcelona, which is very, very hard at the moment because their relationship with Laporta isn't so great.
Es un cagón if he goes back over there, bro.
Going to MLS, which ideally will be Inter Miami because of all the links that have transcended in the past. And the And the last one, I feel like it might be maybe one season in Newell's, but it's going to be very difficult. It's going to be very difficult because of the place, because of the stadiums, and the infrastructures are really bad. So
ya veo la barrida de Marco Rojo para quitarle la pelota y
Álvaro said Gaby going to wear the 5 and 6. Para con Gaby, bro.
Gaby, great player, great signing. Finally,
for another day.
He's gonna wear number 6, Alvarito. They already posted it.
What do you think? What do you think, Socio? Where do you think Messi ends up?
Oh, like I said, my brother, optimistically, come over here, especially if he wants to go to Copa America and all that stuff. Come over here, play la CONCACAF Champions League que nos acabamos de inventar. 3 games ahí por un mes, then the league, tranquilito, asadito,
play
South
Leagues
Beach,
Cup, play CONCACAF Champions League,
BTs, you feel me?
Play against Jamaica Bandits, an away game.
That would be my dream, obviously. I think that would be every Miami's
what if
dream.
PSG wins the Champions League? What happens if PSG wins the Champions League?
That's never gonna happen. It's not in their DNA. But realistically, I think he signs with PSG. They're gonna offer him a dumb amount of money, and for a year, you can't say no to that, bro.
That's what I think too. I think he ultimately ends up re-signing with PSG. But obviously, you know, my preference would be for him to come here. I think that's the 3 of our preferences and every Inter Miami fan's preference.
Or he goes and teams up with the GOAT or the Saudi Arabia.
He'll go the other team. The goal that ever since he's gone there, they've lost 2 games in a row.
He's rumored. Well, there was a rumor that Messi was offered $300 million a year by Al Hilal. So that might still be on the table.
He needs to feel
a trend, dog.
So there will be a new El Clásico, Al Hilal versus.
By the time Messi's even offered that contract, Cristiano Ronaldo will no longer be there because of how disastrous his play has been in the past 3 games that he's played.
Ronaldo's in it for Newcastle to play Champions League next year,
the team
bro.
had a 13-game win streak, and ever since Ronaldo got there, not only did they lose both games that he's played, they also lost the Super Cup against one of the rival teams.
Pero sabe toda la plata que está generando, and he for sure has a percentage. Él ya le importa.
That's where he's at. That's what he's doing.
Yeah, well. All right, guys.
Go Talk shouldn't even put into in this place, actually.
Yeah, next. What happened?
Se le cortó el internet.
Nico. Sorry, guys. Technical difficulties.
Socio gets me aggravated when he starts talking about
difficulties.
I can see that. I can see that.
Go moments get me nervous.
Take it to the chat then.
I can see that. Yeah, definitely take that to the chat, or we'll take it outside of this. But thank you, everybody, for joining us on our second episode of This is Futbol. Muchas gracias por estar con nosotros en This is Futbol, nuestro segundo episodio. Yeah, don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget
I'll say the words that I hear from my daughter.
Follow me on Twitter.
Hit like and subscribe, guys.
Oh, that's right.
And don't forget to hit the little bell so that you get the notification when our lives come out. We should be doing another one.
Next one, Danny.
Yeah, next one is
a little hint for next one.
We want fans, brother. Don't scare them.
Let's drop some hints for the next one.
We're gonna have a guest. Another guest.
Another guest.
This time,
fire
player.
All right. So a player. All right. So
just give the league he played in last, and that's it.
Various leagues, but the MLS.
All right, so we have an MLS player coming on the podcast next time. Do we have a date set for that yet, or
at the end of the week? At the end
of the week. Okay, so on Friday there will be a podcast where we will have an MLS player. That's super exciting, and you can follow us on our social medias. We all have all of ours here, or you can follow us at the This is Futbol social media. It'll be posted at the bottom of our YouTube. Thank you again for joining, and see you next time. Uruguay, carajo.
This is Futbol.